Hello everyone, Reggie Time here with what might be a pretty short Sunday morning session. I woke up early, there's not much going on many of the sites, so we're having a look at Unibet, and I'm not expecting the games to be too great, but feeling fresh, feeling good, and I thought why not put a session in. Haven't got any reads on any of the players as yet. We've only been playing around 5 minutes. This player ran like a pretty stupid post-flop bluff, a little post-flop bluff, which would have doubled me up had the player who's not here anymore, not sucked out in a multi-way pot. We won a little bit. We won a side pot, but nothing special. But yeah, I'll describe the hand in just a moment. Let's see what we're going to do with this ace-3 first. I think we're just going to check and probably give up. Yeah, this guy raised to 75 pre-flop. It wasn't this player though, but it was a person in that position. And we'll play this ace-3 first. I think we're just going to pot the river as well. Trying to obviously put pressure on one pair hands. Yeah, this guy, he was sat on whatever it was. I think it was like an €8 stack or something like that. He opened. This guy 3-bet to like 290. Oh, no, is it 3 something? Can't remember. Anyway, 3-bet something. I called. I made a mistake actually. I just called thinking we could get this guy to jam and then I could back raise when he called, but I made a mistake because his jam wasn't quite big enough, so we had to just call pre-flop. So we got to a flop. We had like one pot size bet left. It was Queen, Queen X. We had 2 aces. He just jammed Ace King, which I thought was pretty shit. It was a bad jam. And anyway, this guy had 2 9s and he hit a 9 on the turn, and we didn't win all the pot, which should have pissed him. But never mind. But what we do know is that this guy is not particularly good at c-betting. King Queen suited is very pretty, but I'm not a huge fan of playing it out of position versus a range that probably should be quite strong given that he's 3-betting under the gun raiser. I think one thing I've started to notice of late is that I've noticed it more as a product of my own improvement in terms of trying to become slightly more balanced. I'm nowhere near balanced yet, and I try not to be super balanced against players that I think are bad, etc., etc. But what I've noticed about a lot of like what I would consider bad regulars these days, and Sky has a fuck ton of them, which is what's kind of what making me at the point, even though we're not on Sky today, because I've played on Sky quite a bit the last few days. Lots of bad regulars who just it's like they play like it's 2012, still 2013, maybe 2011, whatever it was. But somewhere around the time when every fucker was just mad aggressive, bad aggressive, like it was just like the done thing. Remember Beluga Whale making videos saying just 3-bet c-bet, 3-bet c-bet, 3-bet c-bet. That was like the entire training that he was given for a while. And I love Beluga Whale, but I don't think it was at his finest moment then. Well, then maybe back in that time, it was good advice. Who knows? Maybe I'm being slightly clouded by like how it's bad advice for today's games. But yeah, there just seems to be a fuck ton of players that are just like want to blow up pots up pre-flop, really like with wide, depolarized ranges, and then just fucking bang c-bets in all kinds of boards and not really give a fuck about whether it's hit them or not. I think it's thoughtless. I think it's reckless. I think it's really shit. And there's 2 or 3 regulars in particular on Sky that I've noticed that do it, and they're fucking terrible. And then they'll lecture the table about how bad the table is when they end up getting called down really light, etc. There's one particular player who's been calling me out at the table quite a bit for being a nit, and I don't normally get involved in verbal sparring, but You guys will probably be aware of him. He's a guy called Poker Kinger on Sky. He's an absolute fuck nugget of the highest order. And he seems to think just because he's aggressive, it makes him a wonderful player. And I think it's quite the opposite a lot of the time. I think being aggressive at poker is a really good thing. Of course it is. But it's like anything. If you do too much of it, it's not a good thing anymore. And I think that's like a lot of pretty bad regulars have, is they're just too aggressive, and then they just cry like little girls when that people use their aggression against them. And don't be that guy, basically. So we have top pair and a flush draw. Could raise, but we also don't need to because we have plenty of showdown value. Our opponent checks back, we're going to bet the river. I'm sizing up my value bets of late because people call a lot more than I expect. So last few sessions I've really sized up my value bets, and I've been printing money. I've been absolutely printing money with it. So yeah, really don't like this pot size bet here. I mean, we picked up a good shot. We check back the flops. We have to call, but I am going to fold the river. We're going to call here and probably fold the river. Yeah. It's not nice. But I think calling here would just literally be setting money on fire. Well, not literally, because it's not literal, of course. But we'd be setting money on fire by calling there. Three bet really small by this guy who hasn't got much chips. Just checking no one else is in the pot. They're not just going to jam. Not really much else we can do against that stack size. And we are way behind. We come out the right end of it, so we're not going to complain about that. Not much else we can do there. Yeah, we got our money in terrible, but the guy had 25 big blinds. We had ace queen. We had three betters. There's nothing else we can do there really other than jam. Gotta get lucky sometimes. So yeah, I guess what I'm saying is don't be that like bad monkey aggressive guy just because you managed to get your stats down to something reasonable pre-flop. Or not necessarily down, it's because you think, oh, my ranges are pretty good pre-flop. It doesn't mean you can just fucking go mashing buttons post-flop and expect people to be making some big folds. And we're going to go down the no set, no bet route. I think twos might easily be the best hand there, but I'm not too asked about letting them go. It's be aggressive, but try and be smart with it. Don't just be a fucking monkey. I'm going to check call this river here. I mean, the king shouldn't hit him. Probably shouldn't value bet an 8, but he can have some missed draws that I want to bluff in a small pot. Well, the king did hit him. It hit him massively, and he managed not to value bet. So, go figure, as the Americans. I never really understood that phrase. Go figure. What? Go figure what? I don't understand. Go figure it out. Is that what they're saying? Not much to figure out. The guy's just a fucking idiot, but who knows? Limp king 8, check back flop, call turn, check back river 2 pair. Doesn't seem that great to me. People donk these boards. Who knows what he's doing it with, but ace queen's too strong to fold. We could raise, but he should have too much 6-6, should he? But who knows, we'll see. Call anyway and then take a turn. Near pots the turn. I'm just not a believer, but we only have ace queen. But we'll be looking out for that for the rest of the session. Looking to slow play versus him when he's leading out, etc. Not a great flop for 2 sevens. I'll be departing this pot shortly. Pick up a straight draw on the turn after he checks back. I don't think he checks back a queen on that board. People just get scared when they see when they see a flush draw on the board. So we'll lead out with our straight draw on our pair. If you have got this far into the video and you're enjoying it, please do, if you don't mind, hit the like button. I'm assuming if you got this far into the video, you're not going to be hitting the downvote, thumbs down button, because surely if you're not enjoying something, you wouldn't have watched 12 minutes 18 seconds of it. Maybe you do, maybe you're a sadist, but so you know, like, any comments, I'm trying to respond to all comments unless they're spam or just rude. We don't reply to them too often. But yeah, do try to reply to any comments, questions that you have about Unibet or anywhere else, anything else. Any question you want to ask me about poker in general. I try to be as interactive as possible. So what I'm thinking about here is, well, all three options. I think folding's probably not an option because our hand's too strong and it's under-repped, because most people you would expect would 3-bet ace queen in this situation. I tend not to from the button. Whether we want a 4-bet jam or just call, and I think we want to just call for now and play some poker. Post flop, I mean, if you really wallops a c-bet into this board, there's pretty much nothing we're going to be able to do. It's not a good board for us to... I mean, we could float, try and see if we can win the pot on a 5-10. But yeah, we are going to float just once, because if you're giving it with ace king, we just get to win the pot nearly always. That's a really good turn card. Now we can just, hopefully, if he checks, we can just check the pot down. It's very unlikely he has any 8x in his range. He might just still call with an overpair. Who knows, but we'll see. I think when we float to get a good turn card like this, when we can have sets, straights, he probably can only have overpairs, you would imagine. Wow, 6-5, that's quite depressing. He has the 6-5, because I was not expecting that. I was not expecting that. Wouldn't look pretty stupid there. King Jack. I'm just going to let it go. I'm always careful after a pot like that when things don't go the way I expected or want, that keep myself in check for the next like few orbits, just to make sure there's no like blowouts afterwards or aftershocks, call them what you will. So this time, he's betting a similar size to what he bet last time. The 2-8 we probably can't fold. We're up against the same player from before. We'll go for a check rizzle on this one. We might look a little bit tilted. Board doesn't really favour our range. We'll have a lot of high cards and things. And if we can try and rep a little bit of tilt, maybe, who knows? I'm just going to fold down here. And we win one straight back. So, happy days. Yeah, be very interested if you have got this far in the video. I mean, I'm going to 3-bet the ace queen this time, not because of we didn't 3-bet last time, so let's 3-bet it this time, just because we're playing against somebody who we think might be a fish. We want to try and isolate him. If you've got any comments on the ace queen hand, in fact, I'm going to bring the replayer up for it, and we're going to look at it at the end before we wind the video up, because I think it needs more discussion than we gave it at the time, than I gave it at the time, sorry. So, yeah, we'll look at that at the end. If you can't be asked watching the rest of the video, probably you might be well served to just skip to the end of the video, because we will absolutely 100% discuss that at the end. So this guy who's like called a 3-bet position, donked and then checked the turn. We haven't got much more than pot left, so let's just go all in and we win another one. Because I think there are a few things in that hand that I'm aware that could attract some criticism, and I'm not just going to like try and think of a way to justify my line, but I'm just going to explain my thought process throughout the hand, and it's hard to do that in a live play video right on the spot. I don't really want to be trying to do it while still playing, so I'll do it at the end, and I'm not going to try and sugarcoat it. I'm just going to give my opinion on why I did what I did, and then maybe upon reflection I might decide that it wasn't too great, who knows, or I might decide that I'm fine with it and just not play results. But we'll see. I'm kind of like the way I always do now in these situations. Just going to remove it from my mind for now, and we'll go back and look at it in whatever, if it's going to be maybe half an hour from now. I was going to think about opening the Jack 10, but the fishy guy from the small blind's no longer the same guy. Something you've got to look out for on Unibet is a bit like you do on when you're playing Ignition, I guess, or if you play anonymous tables on microgaming, if those things still exist. I don't know if you do, but yeah, when you're playing on sites that are like semi-anonymous and don't allow tracking software, it's important to keep track of who's at the table. If someone's been doing something like you think to donkey, or you think makes them a donkey, but then you don't notice they leave the table and someone else takes their place, then it could be a big problem. Oh, didn't mean to fold the pocket threes there. Wouldn't be the best of flops for ace king against someone who's not playing a full stack. I was tempted to bet the queen jack just because of my backdoor equity. Decided not to because it was king high. If that was like a 10 high flop, it was 10, 5, 6 for spade, I most assuredly would have c-bet. Now we're going to go for it. Now we have picked up an actual draw. I expect this to work a lot of the time given the flop check through. I'm not one for bluffing in multi-way pots. That's why I didn't really go for it in the end. But we had two overcards, a backdoor flush draw and a backdoor straight draw, that would have been one of the times I would have just probably just made a pretty big c-bet and hoped for folds. If we don't get that, then hope plan B starts to formulate, which is make an actual hand. Don't like just calling out of the small blind. I do it sometimes with some hands, but then we can 3-bet a hand like ace 10 suited. This guy's 4-bet as one, so we might just 4-bet jam if it's a 5-bet jam. If he 4-bet smallish, it might be a nice candidate for a 5-bet bluff jam. Now as it is, it's just going to be a check call on the flop and then play some turns. Not sure I didn't see bet that flop now, put myself in a fucking idiotic spot. But if we're going to turn that, then good for us. Many ways you make. I mean, it's a weird sizing now because of the his stack size, but we can't really raise to 6 and then give an illusion of fold equity, I guess. But the bottom line is I shouldn't have should just have c-bet the flop with my gut shot, but I was too busy focusing on the ace 10 suited hand up on table 2. It's easy to make a lot of smallish mistakes when you're multi-table, especially when you get to my age. I'm 43 now. My reflexes aren't as sharp as they once were. I'm still obviously very capable of playing 4 tables without any problem. Probably 6 tables tiled, maybe more cascaded or stacked. But when you try to make a video too, some small mistakes will creep in. What are we going to do with this ace-3? I mean, I guess we're just going to call with it that size and lose most of the time. And we certainly are. We're going to lose to that hand all the time. But it brings me to like a pretty salient point that I want to make. Salient might not be the right word. We'll get around to it in just a moment. We've got the queens and we want to focus, because we're going to be talking about focus in just a moment. I'm just going to call this 25 pence, but again, expect to lose, but not such a big deal. Yep, lack of focus. One of the methods I use when I'm working with players is, and I'll do this at least once with them if they buy a package of sessions, maybe not so much if they just want to do some hand reviews. If it's a guy that's saying, can I have 1 hour with you? I've got a bunch of hands I want to talk to about somebody. Because I quite often have that, guys who don't really have any poker buddies, and they just sometimes say, look, I've got a few hands. If you've got time, can we spend an hour discussing them? And that's all they want to do. I'm like, yeah, I can do that. Absolutely. But for the guys that I'm having like more than one session with, I would usually do at least one video review session where I say, just record yourself playing a typical session, do everything you normally do. And we get loads from them because of just like how quick the guys play the hands, how little concentration they have in lots and lots of spots, because they're just like cycling through tables and decisions really quickly. Tempted to squeeze this, which is why I haven't like just turbo mucked it yet. I'm not going to. So yeah, like concentration, focus, especially when you've got like two hands going on at once, it's not easy to do, and I failed to do it just then. I've absolutely failed with when we had like the ace-10 suited and then the gut shot down this table, and I was trying to talk at the same time. Multitasking, you might think you can do it because you can physically keep up with your tables and you can click where you need to click, all these things. You might think, oh yeah, I can cope 6 tabling or 8 tabling or 5 tabling, whatever it is you're doing. But can you cope and actually play well? Physically being able to click the buttons when you need to click them doesn't necessarily mean that you are good at multi-tabling. Right. Thankfully, you just noticed his stack size just in time there before we made the 3-bet that would have committed us to his gem. And those are exactly the sort of mistakes I'm talking about. Just checking yourself, so you're not noticing things that you need to notice before you make decisions, like stack sizes, things like that. So many guys just make a mistake there, they'll 3-bet and oh fuck, I didn't notice his stack size, now he's jammed on me. It's a pretty big deal. If you don't notice someone's stack size before 3-betting them or whatever, then you're making a huge mistake, and people are like, oh fuck, it's just a mistake, never mind. One of those things, and they just like sweep it under the carpet, kick it into the long grass, whatever, however you want to describe it. But they really are win rate killers, especially if you're doing it with like any kind of frequency. And I see guys do that all the time, like, why did you 3-bet that hand, or why did you choose that sizing? Look at his stack size. Oh, I didn't notice his stack size at the time. When it's absolutely your job as a poker player to notice critical information like someone's stack size, or if there's a short stack behind you, or if there's a short stack that's limped. You've got to make sure you have all the information to hand before you make decisions. And I see people just kicking so often, oh, that's an easy 3-bet. Oh fuck, I didn't realise the guy in the big blind only had fucking 9 big blinds or whatever. Just stuff like that. You've got to be super focused. It's not that easy to get an edge on fellow regulars these days in terms of the ranges you play and playing them better. We can certainly have an edge there. I'm not saying for a second an edge there, because it's absolutely an edge there, because some players still play very badly. But an edge you can still really have is just being much more concentrated and focused than your opponents. Because I've seen it so many times now. Literally, it's if I could survey most of the people I've worked with, at least half of them will have had the lecture from me of, why are you rushing? Why are you rushing? Why are you taking your time? Why did you rush that decision then? Why is your time bank not going down more than like 5-10% of its actual bar? Because it's an incredibly common problem that lots of you guys absolutely will have. Now we got the result we didn't want there, which was this guy calling and missing, but never mind. I'm hoping just to take it down there, but we didn't. And now the board isn't particularly cooperating with us. I slightly overbet this flop versus this guy here, and then just try and jam the turn. It looks like he's a face issue. He's got a draw. If he's got a king, he's not going to want to fold it, and we're not going to get 3 streets from whatever pocket 7. Sorry, 7x or pocket 8 or something. So just try and blow the pot up super fast. And if we can't do it, if he just folds, well, he just folds. It's not such a big deal. He pots it here, he's going to call. Do we want to now raise and get it in? It's a limped pot. We have a set. Strange. Weird situation. I think I'm just going to raise and get it in. No, if he's got a 5 then, hallelujah. We need to suck out. So yeah, it's not been the quietest of sessions for a Sunday morning. I expected the games to be like pretty dull and nitty. Well, they've been a bit more, I won't say they've been action-packed, but there's been certainly more action than I would expect. Maybe there's a bunch of fathers on, burning the Father's Day money. Who knows? A lovely message from my daughter today. I don't live with my children, and said happy birthday, happy Father's Day, Dad. Happy Father's Day, you loser. Sorry, that's what he said. Which I thought was rather charming. But then she followed it up with a lovely message. Excuse me. Hopefully something reasonably interesting happens soon. A couple of minutes of just folding junk, which is never great when you're trying to make a live play video because there's fuck all to say. We have to call to set mine, even hope that Poppy doesn't just jam it in. Don't do it, Poppy. He didn't do it. We didn't flop our set anyway, but at least he didn't do it. Pretty big isolation raise here from 89, no jazz 98. It's going to get me out of the pot, but it wasn't enough to get Mr. Gar out of the pot. I'm rooting for Mr. Gar in this spot. Mr. Gar did not have the 7. So this guy 4x pre-flop, he's checked 3 times on this board. I'm going to guess he has a hand like some kind of shitty pocket pair that he's not happy with. And Poppy just decided to let him call him with the King 7 off suit, which is not good if you're Poppy. I'm going to complete with a deuce 4 because it's pretty. Don't do it hot. Just behave yourself. Just see a flop hot, come on. Yeah, we did see a flop. We had the absolute pleasure of completely missing it. This guy's definitely on the aggro side. I don't recognise the name. Probably won't recognise it again in future because it'll probably be somebody else tomorrow. But if this was to be a long session, I'd be looking to. The adjustment I'd be looking to make against somebody 3-bets a lot is to open slightly tighter, open slightly smaller sizes, and start defending more. I wouldn't allow it to piss me off. I would just be like, right, what am I going to do to protect myself against this? Well, by opening out, by making our raises smaller, we make his bluffs less profitable. By opening smaller, it costs us less when we fold, and it usually means we get to see flops for cheaper too. When we do want, with the parts of our range, we do want to defend, and it's going to give us a few more cheap 4-bet bluff opportunities. So that's my absolute bog standard, super easy adjustment to people who 3-bet quite aggressively. Call with the 4s there because we check back the flop. He bets the turn on the jack. I think I might just call this down here. I think a lot of the time he has a jack on nothing in this situation, and we beat a lot of nothing. We just have the jack. Never mind. And we call a turn because we check back the flop, and he might just be like randomly just try, well, not randomly, but just being aggressive versus our check back. And you know, if we are wrong, you know, we do have probably 6 outs. And then when the river pairs the board, then his value range becomes significantly narrower. And I think it's not the best of hands to bluff catch with. Obviously, it's just because it's a pretty weak hand, but bluff catchers typically are pretty weak hands, aren't they? That's why the bluff catchers. Anyway, that was my alarm going off, warning me that I have something to do soon. So we're going to wind up the video, and we're going to get back. We're going to quickly take a look at the ace queen hand that we want to look at. Hopefully the replay will work, because last time I tried to do this, the replay completely fucked me off, and we couldn't do it. But we'll still be able to talk about it, even if the replay somehow fails. I like Unibet, but it's got to be said the replay is fucking dreadful. It doesn't capture all the hands for a start for you to be able to actually replay them, which is shit. Excuse me. And sometimes it just freezes and it makes it hard to use. It's flawed, shall we say. Come on, guys, get on with it. I'm really going to wait 3 or 4 minutes just to fold some garbage. Is that really what you're going to do to me, Unibet? Well, not Unibet, Life. I guess we just bring it across now. So yeah, we had the ace queen in this hand. Is the replay going to work? Doesn't look like it wants to, which is a bit of a pisser. Yeah, it's crashed again. So we're going to just do it from memory. What a shit piece of software. I'm not going to close it because if we try and get it back up again, it'll just be a complete clusterfuck. Could have better find it, etc, etc. So we flatted an open from dispatch here with ace queen on the button. This player at the time, had I known then what I know now, which is it's pretty aggressive with his 3-betting, I absolutely would just back race the ace queen because it's just very strong versus range. But we didn't know that at the time. The reason I didn't 3-bet pre-flop is when I'm 3-betting in position, especially, I like to be pretty polarized with 3-betting range. So I'm going to flat stuff like pocket pairs, probably up to maybe 10s and jacks, something like that. Maybe just up to 10s. And I'm going to be 3-betting jacks plus, and then some suited gappers, things like that. Some I don't know, 8-9 suited. Why is that doing that? I will do it this way, it'll be easier. I'm going to have some 8-7s, 8-6 suited, 10-8 suited, jack 9 suited, queen 10 suited, that type of thing. And I'm going to keep the hands that I'd really be quite annoyed if I got 4-bet with. So these types of hands like ace queen, ace jack, stuff like that. I'm going to have some strongish big cards in my range. I'm not saying that's a really good strategy, it's just my strategy. And it does allow us to defend versus squeeze. It allows us to back raise versus squeezes with stronger hands than people might expect. All those types of things. I'm not saying it's a good strategy, I'm not saying you should do it, but it's typically how I approach button 3-betting. So then, had I known more about this player, I would have unquestionably, because I think he made a squeeze to $3, €3.40. I would have just probably not jammed, but back raised him to 780 or whatever, and just side and called it off if he jammed. But it allows us to, when the board comes down high and he's bluffing, it allows us, and we have like good board coverage with this. If it comes down an ace or a queen or something like that, we can certainly call down multiple streets. When the boards come down like this, we can also represent these boards. So I kind of like it. It gives me like lots of playability on lots of boards. So anyways, our friend here seemed at the flop for just over half pot, I think it was. And we decided to float, thinking that if he does just have 2 high cards, we can take him off on the turn a lot. If he does have an overpair and we get a card exactly like this, like a 5 or a 10 or an 8, something like that, we can absolutely just try and bluff him. And that's what we tried to do. The turn came down the 5, he checked. And I think we jammed for like 125% pot, 130% pot. So it might have been slightly more, but I'm not sure. It was an overbet, but it wasn't a massive overbet. I think that's when I made my mistake. Because if I did have an 80, if I had pocket 8s, I would absolutely not have jammed. Because I would have tried to rope overpairs in. So I think I was pretty, yeah, trying to think of the right words. The sizing I used, I wasn't balanced with it, because I know for a fact that I would not have used that sizing had I been value betting. If I had a set, for example, I would have definitely value bet with the set, and obviously would have value bet with the straight too. I probably would have checked back some overpairs, like, well, wouldn't have many overpairs, would I? Jacks maybe, 10s maybe. But maybe I would have 3-bets, back raised them to 300. But anyways, it's by the by. When I jam that turn, I don't think I do a very good job of repping a straight or a set. But at the same time, it still puts him in an impossible spot with like ace king, for example. It puts him in a tough spot with aces, kings, queens, I guess, in terms of like, yeah, he's got the best hand a lot. He knows he's got the best hand a lot, but how can he call on that board? Because I can have all the sets, all the straights, etc., etc. So yeah, I don't hate it, but I don't love it. I think I should have done a better size. I think what was going through my head, I'm going to be completely honest at the time, was I think it was like 11. I wanted to bet maybe a little bit smaller, something like 11 or something like that. But if you jammed, I would have had to fold, and I just went for like hopefully max fold equity. But I think by doing that, I ended up maybe making it easier for some of his like overpairs to call. I don't know. I think I like the hand up until the turn, and I think I like betting to represent. But I think my overbet was fucking horrible. And in hindsight, I would much rather have gone for a much smaller bet. I'd rather see me bet like €5 on the turn. Just to like, that's what I would bet with my straights and things. I think I made a bad turn mistake with my sizing. I think my plan was okay, like float the flop, try and hit a turn like this, and try and get some bluffs through. But then I think I kind of balled it with my sizing. I chose a really shit size, and I got rightly punished. So there we go. A bit of honesty from me, like I said I would be. At the time, it felt pretty spewy, and I think in hindsight, I'm happy with pre-flop. I had no problem with my pre-flop play. No real problem with my flop float for the reasons that we talked about. And I've no problem with deciding to bet the turn, but I think the size I chose was disgusting. I think we should just have been betting like 35-40% pot and folding to a raise. That's what we should have done. We didn't do it. We fucked up. We lost a buy-in. Such is life. This is where we have bankrolls. It's not a big problem. You know, we all make mistakes. I made a mistake making a video. It's going to give my critics a chance to really pan me. But it would be dishonest of me to, like, every time I made a mistake in a video, I didn't produce the video, didn't show it. It would just be dishonest, and it's not my style. Yeah, we butchered it. Sometimes we butcher it and we get away with it. Sometimes we butcher it and we don't get away with it. And we didn't get away with this one, but never mind. We live and we learn. And yeah, we move on. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. Hope you've at least understood my explanation of that hand, even if you don't like it. And I hope you appreciate that I've been honest with it. So we'll leave it there, and we'll talk to you again really soon. Bye-bye for now.